Well, I need to welcome you back, and we're still with the big story for today. We're looking at the growing hardship in the country, and the recent call for the federal government to do more in dealing with it, especially coming from the backdrop from the protest that was held on Monday simultaneously in Niger State, Minna to be precise, and Kano. And how that very protest seems to be also bringing out that very cry by millions of Nigerians, indicating that things are becoming unbearable and the cost of living is pretty getting high. But anyway, what does the federal government need to do to address it, and should it be made more political with the back and forth between the ruling All Progressive Congress and also the leading opposition party like the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party, and funny enough, that in Kano, NNPP. Hardship it is, the growing hardship that is orchestrated with a whole lot of issues that seems to be playing out, especially as it concerns the growing inflation and also the high cost of foodstuffs. Well, anyway, that's what we're looking at today on the big story. And I see I have no other person but public analyst and also a commentator. I was talking of Chief Daniel Ekigbo. Let's quickly come back to you, sir. Before we went on the break, we looked extensively at that very remark coming from the ruling All Progressive Congress, insisting that those protests that were staged early this week were more like political, undermining you feel different about it. And also in the first half of it, we looked critically at the statement coming from no other but the Chief of Staff of Mr. President, Femi Gbajabiamila, when he said there was no food crisis. But you feel it's a bit economical with the truth. But let's stick with the truth, though, and still remain with it. And I want us to quickly go back to on Sunday.
Okay.
And on Sunday, the former Vice President of the nation and the People's Democratic Party flag bearer in the last general election, Atiku Abubakar, said the present hardship being experienced by Nigeria is as a direct result of the policies of the Tinubu administration. And he said that very direct result of that policy seemed to have put many Nigerians in despair and a lot of pain. And I'm now being forced to ask, do you feel the policies of this administration is the reason we are deep into the problems we have now? Do you feel all of this is self-inflicted? I'm just talking about the despair Nigerians are going through now. And let's look critically at the policies, because that's where the talking point is.
Now, perhaps you may want to place some of these policies on the table.
Okay, well, let's place them and look at them then.
If a country is in a mess as deep as this, the policies of the government of the day cannot be excused.
Cannot be excused.
At all. Because it means the policies are not working. So if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar made that accusation, he was right. And it is not even enough for APC or the Tinubu-led administration to try to exonerate itself or castigate Atiku for those accusations. Okay. You know, it should boil down to taking it as a challenge. If you have been accused of something you think you are not doing, then do what we reverse the situation. Nigerians are in a terrible mess, and it all emanated from a single pronunciation on the day of swearing in. Now, after that pronunciation, people were still expecting, Nigerians were still expecting that, okay, for him to take this decision on the very first day of his inauguration, let's assume he equally have good policies to mitigate the shortfall. But here we are, running to a year, and nothing is changing. Things are getting bad every day. So do we even have policies that are being operated under this administration? With the kind of monies we were told that they generated from the fuel subsidy removal, who thought that it was also going to take up to 5 months for our refineries to be functional? Who thought it was going to take up to 3 months for power to be stabilized? What exactly are the demands? What are the aspirations? What are the yearnings of the average Nigerian? affordable fuel, stable power. Once you can guarantee these two things, leave Nigerians on their own. Unfortunately, these are two things that are the prerogative of the federal government to provide. So what policies actually is Tinubu running?
Okay, now let's really look at the policies. Now, you feel the removal of fuel subsidy was one policy that went too far,
Yeah.
and the needed result from it is not seen, but rather we're having a backward trend of the repercussion of that removal. That's number one. Another major policy he announced, but he later implemented in June, was removing the restriction between the parallel and also the black market. He collapsed it all into one and made the naira free flow and was floating on its own till the level it was. And just recently, on Monday to be precise, Bismarck Rwani said this administration should come out with the truth of what really is happening to the naira, that the naira was not jinked, but rather overrated, and is only just finding its level just like water would. But my question, do you feel also that policy of this administration was in the wrong direction? It should have been what we experienced in the last 8 years of former President Muhammadu Buhari when the naira was pegged against the dollar. Or what do you feel?
Definitely. Having it pegged has turned out to be the best policy.
But it was stated that having it pegged was the reason we went into debt. We were borrowing to sustain the value of the naira. But now that we are not borrowing to sustain the value of the naira is now finding its level.
Now, how can you say naira is finding its level?
That's what Bismarck
in an economy that is in shambles? It will be difficult to convince the ordinary Nigerian on the street that that currency you have, that you are supposed to be proud of, is rising or standing in a place of pride with such economy. It is like draining the people's blood to feed the ego of the naira, and it's not taking Nigeria anywhere, especially the average Nigerian and those below the average. This country is presently the country of only the bourgeois. Those that are at the top, they live large. They don't even feel what you are feeling. You know, the rich can do everything to water their ego and keep it shining. But to what economic advantage?
So you feel if we are pegging the naira to now, we might not be where we are?
At all. It was pegged for quite a number of years.
Yes.
Look at where we were. Even despite the fact that we were thinking that where we were then was worse. But here we are now, being told the pure difference between bad, worse, and worst. You understand? There is nothing shameful, nothing wrong about a federal government looking at previous policies and how they helped the people or shaped the economy, whether disastrous to the ego of the naira or whatever. Nothing wrong in adopting or backpedaling to ensure that the hardship facing the people are eroded. Because if we continue on this free fall or free rise, I want to name it, things will continue going up steadily. And crime will only be growing steadily.
Yeah.
And of course, you cannot excuse protest from it. Yeah. Protests will be escalating equally, and then things will get out of hand. And that could be an invitation to a different form of leadership.
I understand what you mean.
Because when the pain is getting too much on the people and they can no longer bear it, and they are now all out of their homes and on the streets, lying down on the major highways that you should bring your bulldozers and kill them, you know what that portends. So we just pray Nigeria.
So you feel all of that can be averted if we return back to the policy of paying.
Why not?
Okay, now
let me quickly add.
Yes.
I am not saying you must. Now, you spoke about collaborative approach.
Yes.
Now, if you cannot go back, go beyond your boundaries. There are people outside that your APC shows that can think beyond the box and say, okay, let's do this way.
Differently.
You know what I feel personally? I see a complete vote of no confidence on the people running the system. So if that be the case, get people that can help the economy revive.
Okay, now still talking about reviving the economy, I'm talking about self-infliction. Yesterday, there was more of an interaction between the delegation, the economic team delegation, the national economic team delegation, and members of the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of disclosure were made yesterday. And one that caught my attention, we're still talking about the Naira and its free fall. And one that caught my attention, and funny enough, even is on the front pages of some of the dailies this morning, is that the total sum of 58.7 billion Naira was used on personal travel allowances. And 58.7 billion dollars were used for personal travel allowances, about 40 billion on education, and also healthcare over the past 10 years. We're talking about the free fall of the Naira. And which means 38% of our foreign exchange revenue were involved in business transactions, while almost 62% of our foreign exchange transactions were not involved in any business transactions. And funny enough, this very administration said that most of the transactions, especially as it concerns the Naira and the dollar, most of the transactions of the dollar were done for things that we do not need, and things that were also available in the country. And he felt there was a whole lot of mopping of this very dollar, and that's the reason we are where we are today, with the shortfall of dollar, and the dollar always rising against the Naira every day. So I just want your reaction to that. Do you feel the free fall of the Naira is also a direct result of, like you said, the bourgeois and how their lifestyle of luxury, their lifestyle of having classic education outside the shores of this land, their lifestyle of having pretty better health care, not embedded here but going overseas to get it, and the high demand on the dollar? Hence, we are deep into the crisis of having scarcity of dollar and a lot of Naira purchasing it or running after it.
Well, in quote, when we say self-inflicted, in quote, I would like to define the so-called self. For me, I am not part of it. However, my other brothers or sisters who happen to be at the helm of affairs inflicted it on all of us. So let us.
Okay, well, anyway, I'll let you be free in excusing yourself from the self-infliction.
Yes.
But the truth is, it was made by our leaders.
Good. It's government inflicted on us.
Okay,
you understand? If you have spent so much on the health sector, let us take, for instance, from 1999 till about 2015.
Okay.
If you have spent the figures we see, both from the federal government at every state level on the health sector, there might be near zero need for overseas medical trips.
Okay.
Now, go to the presidency, the home base of Nigerians governance, Aso Rock. I can't remember the figure immediately, but if you know the figure allocated to the health facilities of Aso Rock alone, you could be tempted to have this time self-inflicted headache. However, if any member of the president's family has any symptoms of fever, they don't get treated there with the hundreds of billions invested in that health facility. You choose to fly them overseas. And it's all telling on the naira.
Of course.
You have refused to guarantee power, electricity, for textile mills to function in Nigeria. And then there are no good textile mills that can give you quality materials. So when you need a quality material, you patronize Kashmir in India. And that is telling on the naira. You need a wristwatch. These are things that can be produced in Nigeria under a good environment created by good leadership, good government. The environment is not there, and so you need to wear a good watch. It must be foreign. So these are the problems. The rich, like you rightly mentioned, who have this flair for classic materials and whatever, who says this cannot be done in Nigeria? I'm not campaigning for anybody, but do you know that every time I give kudos to our brothers across the Niger Bridge, our brothers in Igbo land, these guys can produce anything. And if they could produce those ones they are producing, which we refer to as abamid, because of maybe quality drop or something, it means under normal environment, they could produce the standard of what we are going to Dubai to get. This is Ugali. There is this glass factory in town, Better Glass. It used to be it used to be Delta Glass, but it's now Better Glass. I was told by a staff so many years ago that these guys produce quality glass materials that are exported. That the ones that they will put in a local market are like their third grade. I wouldn't know how true this information is.
Yeah.
But the point is, if it were true that they could produce the quality for export and then a third grade for local consumption, it means under normal circumstances, they could have been given their local environment that quality product. So it is our flair for foreign things that is bringing this burden on the naira. If the government is sincere with it, implement the local education policy. You invest so much on schools in Nigeria. All the children of government officials attend schools here. You will not be burdening the naira to procure admission and pursue your payments overseas. You want medical care, remain in Nigeria, do it here. Or are they being told to pay in dollars if they do it in Nigeria? The answer is no. So if we're talking of self-inflicted, yes, the upper class inflicts it on all of us. That the naira keeps skyrocketing. It's not because of the ordinary man. Sometimes I've seen forums where people say, when they consign us with dollars, are you getting it? But the truth remains that if we can refuse to place too much burden, too much demand on the dollar, naira will appreciate gradually on its own. There's no way you bring a policy that it is a policy that will take it. It is not a policy. It is the humans.
People.
And who are these people that have access to demanding for dollars? They are the same government people.
Well, anyways, it's really a hard nut to crack, but one that we're trying to really make simple. But that doesn't still change the pure fact that things seems to be hard in the country. and the recent call and cry by many Nigerians that things need now to take a proper shape, especially coming from the federal government in addressing all of this. But let's do this. I'll still talk more about it. We'll address the issue when we come back. But we need to go on a break now, and when we come back, like I said, more on the big story for today.